What does music, trade paperback, comic books, manga, video game, movies, and books all have in common? They can get digitized. And it's interesting because it seems like digital media is becoming more mainstream than the physical ones. And this raised a lot of questions in my mind because there's a lot of pros and cons of both physical and digital copies. Now, I don't want to make this video long, so I'm going to give you about, let's say about 2 pros and cons for both physical copies and digital copies. So let's start with the physical one. For pro number 1 is self-gratification. The fact that you own a copy is like awesome. You look at it like it's a trophy. The fact that you heard about it, or you've seen ads about it, or you just always knew about it but you've been wanting it for a while, and then finally you saw it and you bought it, or you obtained it some way or another, and it's yours. Like I said, it's kind of like a trophy. You're like, sweet. You can always look over and see, like, wow, I own this. So that's pro number 1, self-gratification. Pro number 2 is motivation. These physical copies can actually motivate you into going out and obtaining more physical copies of whatever item you're looking for. Like, say, maybe they're more of a series, or maybe it's a group where you're like, oh, there's more albums, and you just want to get some more of them. They motivate you into going out and obtaining more, and it gets you moving. It pretty much burns your collector's spirit inside. So that's pro number 2, motivation. Now here comes the cons. Con number 1 is space. Let's be honest, when it comes to physical copies, they demand space. And whether it's our room or in our house, in reality, it's nothing more than a live-in storage compartment. And as much space as we used to have, it's becoming more and more smaller and smaller, because we're always buying, more physical stuff to put in to our sort of storage compartment, which, like I said, could be either a room or a house. But yeah, that's the con right there. You gotta, manipulate or figure out a way to create a space for it, or move some stuff around just to manage something. It just, sometimes it can be hectic, other times it's just like, you know what I mean? So yeah, con number 1 is space. Con number 2 is location. Now, I don't mean location as in stores or, obtaining them. I mean location as in your possession. Now, here's what I mean. Let's have, we've all done this. Here's a little scenario. You're probably chilling. You're either sitting in your chair or on your couch or whatnot. And say all of a sudden you're in the mood for, I don't know, say you're in the mood to read a book. And there's just one chapter in that book where you're like, oh man, I gotta reread that again, or how did that go again? Like, you're playing it in your mind and you're like, let me, it's just been on your mind, and you're like, let me pick it up and, read that chapter. But like I said, you're sitting and chilling, and the book that you're thinking of is on the top bookshelf, which is like about 5 or 6 feet away from you. And in order to get it, you gotta move some stuff around. Either it could be, other books, or it could be your anime figures, or, whatever, statue, other form of collection, you know what I mean. It's like there's something in the way for you to obtain this book. And if you're a short person, that means you gotta get up and grab a stool or a chair to climb on top and, obtain it, basically go through all that mess again. And as you're sitting in a chair looking at the book or looking at the location where it is, you're thinking to yourself, that's too much work. So, you know, like I said, con number 2 would be location. Now, over for the digital copies. Pro number 1 would be compact. The fact that you can obtain all your contents, and, you know, depending on if you got an iPad, an iPhone, or an iPod, or, you know, your laptop, or, you know, whatever form of electrical unit that can, you know, hold these contents digitally, it's kind of cool because, you know, you can put so much in there and it's so compact. Of course, there's a limit, you know, of how much you can put there, but it can be well organized and it can hold all your content just the way you want it, and it's compact and you don't have to worry about space unless, you know, there's storage space inside the digital electronical equipment. So that's pro number 1, compact. Pro number 2 is that it's a lot easier, kind of like more of a guarantee for you to obtain your content that you're searching for, rather than, you know, going for the physical aspect. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, when it comes to location, when you're trying to buy physical copies, you may never know. It could be maybe like 2 towns away from you, and you're like, crap. Or really, in reality, sometimes people just really don't have the time or the opportunity to go out and find a physical copy. But yet, it's a lot easier for them to have access for the content digitally. So, yeah, the fact, like I said, pro number 2 is a lot easier for you to find your content and to obtain them. Now, here comes the con. And the con number 1 depends on what electrical equipment you're using to hold your digital copies. It could be, again, your iPhone, your iPad, or your iPod, your laptop, you know, etc., etc. Those electronic equipment are extremely fragile. You know, or sometimes, you know, if you accidentally hit a button and erase all your files, that sucks. If you drop your electrical device and it breaks, you lost your stuff, that sucks. You know, or if it gets stolen, all that work you put into, you know, putting all that content in there was for nothing. And again, that sucks. So, yeah, that's con number 1. You know, your electrical equipment or device is extremely fragile. Anything can happen unless you have backup files, but in other cases than that, it can be hectic trying to reload those files as it was originally. So, con number 2 would be that the content that you have, you know, digitally would lose its value. Now, here's what I mean. Say, like, well, actually, no. We've seen people like this, you know. There's no scenario where people would, like, say, have an iPhone or an iPod or an iPad, even in their, you know, other electronic devices. They will put so much stuff in there and never use it or read them or, you know, whatever. They'll put so much content, like, you know, say for a comic book, and say there's like 200 issue comic book, and they'll like download it, get it digitally, and bam, it's right there, and never read any of it. You know, they just put stuff in there just to have it. Like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, like I said, it loses value because it doesn't really have that much of an effect as it would with physical copies. And it's like, you know, like I said, we know people like that where they just got, like, you know, it could be anything, books, comics, movies, games, even music, where they just put a lot of stuff in there just to have it, but not really use it. So, yeah, con number 2 is kind of the contents sort of lose their value. Now, again, like I said, you know, there's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to physical copies and digital copies. And you know, I just want to know, what are you more inclined to? Are you more inclined to the physical copy side or the digital copy side? And also, you know, you can throw in your pros and cons about physical copies and digital copies as well. Oh, just thought of this. For those that are more inclined to the digital copies, for people who are more digitally accessed about content rather than physical aspect, should they be considered collectors? Now here's what I mean. Like, here's a scenario for you. Say you're chilling with a friend and the conversation starts out kind of like this. Yo, dude, guess what? What? You know that special limited edition art book from Shinakawa? Yeah, they're like about, you know, they only made like, what, 200 or 300 copies of them? Yeah, what about it? I got it. Are you for real? Yeah, I'm for real. Nah, man, you joking, because, you know, those things are mad hard to find. You know, they're rare. It's like, yeah, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, I got it. You got one. Yeah, you want to check it out? Hell yeah, I want to check it out. You know, let's see that. Let me see it. Then they bust out an iPad or an iPhone and then start showing you the stuff. How would you react to that? And like I said, would that make them a a person that do that? Would that make him or her a collector if they get content digitally? So, you know, I just want to know your thoughts, you know what I mean? Or, you know, just like I say, you can throw in your pros and cons and, you know, let me know, what are you more inclined to? More inclined to physical copies or digital copies? And like I said, it can be with anything. It could be with music, trade paperback, comic books, mangas, video games, movies, books. It could be, you know, other areas. And yeah. Alright then. Hope you guys enjoy. Later.